All right, well, they hike and the strong economy just takes a hike. That is kind of the message behind the Trump campaign in a Las Vegas Review Journal, slamming the Democratic rivals over their tax plans, which to a man or woman mean at least trillions of dollars more in taxes over the next 10 years. The only differentiator is how many trillions. Vince Connolly's with us, Susan Lee. We got Scott Martin. You know what's interesting, Scott, about the way the president is positioning it? Whatever you think of me, maybe whatever you think of my tweeting or whatever, take a look around you. Take a look at this strong economy and just go with that. What do you think?
I love it, and he's right. And it kind of is one of those situations, Neil, where the numbers and the results are speaking for themselves, not these grandiose, hopeful plans of how things are going to work out so great for everybody, when we all know, I mean, in economics, there are winners and there are losers. Not everybody wins, but people strive to win, and that's really the key behind a lot of the policies that Trump has introduced. And I think you just look around the Democratic side of things. We're going to learn more tonight. I mean, Mike Bloomberg alone, Wall Street, a major beneficiary of Wall Street he was, and now he's got all these ideas that seemingly are going to take down Wall Street and penalize Wall Street for being as successful as it has been over the years.
You know, Susan, the big drive for Democrats is find us a winner, find us someone who can beat Donald Trump. So they kind of put their passions aside in favor of the candidate who can most and likely will, embody that. They're not quite sure about Bloomberg. How is that going down?
Well, on Wall Street, people are a little bit surprised because, as Joe Biden pointed out, Bloomberg has been a Republican most of his life, meaning that he's a proponent of capitalism, lower taxes, less regulation, the trickle-down wealth effect, and now he's talking about a transaction tax on Wall Street, expanding the Volcker rule, meaning more oversight for the banks. And this is counter to what he said 10 years ago. So they're hoping that maybe this is just for the primaries and he'll move closer to the middle when the general election comes around, if he's still around.
You know, how do you think it's going to go for him, Vince, on that idea? I mean, Bloomberg is moderate in terms of some of the other candidates. I think his costs are a few $1 trillion over 10 years with Wall Street transacted taxes and the like, higher taxes of upper income, but they're all going to raise taxes. So how does Bloomberg try to differentiate himself, or can he?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to satisfy the left-wing base at all with these policy positions. Even announcing tax raises of any kind on Wall Street, it's going to fall on deaf ears because he's not a credible communicator on that subject. He is seen in the Democratic Party as a guy who got filthy rich of the finance industry. And the big problem for him is convincing Democrats that he in any way deserves to be a part of this race when the DNC clearly rolled out the red carpet and the velvet rope line for a guy who didn't even participate in the two first contests in this Democratic primary. That's what he needs to overcome. Saying anything about going after Wall Street, that's going to fall on deaf ears.
All right, the president is fond of continuing to quote the markets and what they're doing. Scott, it's something that's very, very important to him. It's hard to gauge where these markets go the rest of the year and all of that, but normally, they're kind of indicative of what's happening in the economy. All seems pretty stable right now, the coronavirus uncertainties notwithstanding. Will that continue to be the wind at his back?
I believe it will. Now, you make a good point, Neil. Things seem eerily okay, don't they? And this is after a lot of things that this market and economy have had thrown at it. I mean, tariff wars alone, a Federal Reserve just about a year or so ago that was hiking rates instead of cutting them. But yes, overall, I think the economy has the wind at its back. And I think one reason we're seeing these record highs day after day, and we're going to see them probably tomorrow, too, after tonight's debate, you're going to see the Democrats continue to fray, and that's why the markets like it, because it gives Trump a better chance in November to pull this out.
Susan, when you talk to traders, what's their biggest worry like these days? I'm sure it's not a focus on the campaign. I'm sure it's the virus, right?
Yeah, well, Goldman Sachs just came out with a note saying that the market isn't really accounting for how big of an impact coronavirus might have, especially we have China talking about an economic crisis. That's what they're equating the epidemic to at this point. There are some concerns, and people are not really pricing that in properly with these record markets still.
You know, when you talk about the record markets and you talk about Michael Bloomberg being front and center, he's Mr. Market. He's Mr. Wall Street. And of course, you know, he made the terminals that became ubiquitous and made him a guy worth $60 billion plus. So, Vince, how does he handle that? Because he could end up sounding an awful lot like the president talking about Wall Street.
Well, of course, and he is transparently an oligarch. The dictionary definition is a guy who uses his financial resources to control political conversations, and that's what he's doing around the country. In fact, tonight's debate will be interesting because this is a liability for him. This is an opportunity for him to actually have to answer questions instead of controlling the airtime that he has by way of the many ads that he's purchased literally everywhere. I feel like when I go to sleep at night, my dreams just start with a Mike Bloomberg ad. He's bought everything. And, yeah, it's unbelievable. I don't even know how he got to that. But that's what he's done.
Do you sleep well then?
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Well, that's the difference in your dreams and mine. Mine involve a grand slam meal at Denny's. But whatever works. Whatever works. Guys, thank you all very, very much.